More trouble for Intel Arc.
Oh.
It feels like just a few short weeks ago that we had representatives from Intel here on the show telling us that things are going swimmingly for Arc and we should be expecting a launch imminently. Wait,
Yeah.
that is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
That exact thing I just said.
It's literally a few short
That wasn't a
weeks ago.
fever dream, right?
Nope.
Like that was a thing.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, according to Igor's lab, as if all the other rumors of Intel's GPU misadventures haven't been bad enough for Team Blue, it now seems, according to rumors allegedly, that third parties are abandoning Arc. Igor says there are lots of unsold but already produced graphics cards sitting in inventory, likely thanks to the fall of cryptocurrency values and the scramble to keep production high to meet that prior demand. Whew, that is a bad time. Yeah, Anthony writes, which, as Linus should know, is a pretty bad time when it comes to tying up your capital. As a result, Intel has been focusing first on OEM partners, but they face a chicken and egg scenario. In order for system integrators and OEM customers to place orders, there must first be a demand for the products to begin with. But since Arc is an unknown quantity, I mean, all we've seen is the small demos that Intel has done. Since it's
Restricted
unproven,
demos too. Yeah.
there is apparently little to no interest from prominent European distributors and dealers. And this was the case long before A380 benchmarks reared their ugly head. There's another
Which was
angle.
that was still a weird way to launch it, considering it's basically always been Halo product and then dropping down from there. And they did like the opposite, which I think
AMD pulled it the other way once when they launched, I think it was Polaris, I want to say.
okay.
Mind you, I don't think they had a high-end product for that generation, like,
Yeah.
at all. So maybe they were just pitching it as, no, they launched, because they did 474, no, they launched the whole stack. They just didn't have a high-end product. I remember now. Nope, never mind. Yep, you're right.
Yeah, it's weird. So I think that set people off on a weird foot as well.
You generally try to put your best foot forward when it comes to launching a generation of products. Now, there's another angle here. Intel allegedly didn't want to give price guarantees, and the conditions around RMA returns were worse than their competitors, which is a tough pill to swallow for system integrators whose margins, at least on desktop computers, are often low. You know what I want to know? I want to know where these RMA conditions for returns are coming from, because back at NCIX, we couldn't return jack shit. When we bought something, it was ours. How did we get hosed so hard? Is it because we were Canadian? That sucks.
It's a pretty good joke, though.
Okay, to be clear, we did occasionally get stock rotation and price protection, but once you committed to having something, you pretty much had it. If I was Intel, though, I would recognize that I'm going to have to offer price protection of some sort for these Arc GPUs, because if I was a reseller, I mean, I remember going through this back when we did the original WAN hoodie, and our strategy for international sales was working through resellers. And we basically had to bend over in order to get the thing in stock in the store, because they were sitting there going, well, if we don't sell it, then we want this to be entirely your problem. We want you to cover shipping back to you, take back the entire thing for the entire value. And because we were just, small and had absolutely no leverage whatsoever, we pretty much had to take whatever offer was given to us. So hilariously, we had, I think, 3 partners, I want to say. It was either 2 or 3. I can't remember.
It's been a long time.
I think we had 3 partners, though, and the only one that didn't manage to sell through and that we did end up taking inventory back from was NCIX. Yeah, I know, right? They weren't even the ones that gave me a really hard time about terms. I just told them, like, just look, just don't worry. We'll get it taken care of. And then they just, didn't sell it. That's NCIX, right? It just, yeah, if your product sells itself, then great, you'll be fine. And if it doesn't, if they have to actually do any work, then it could be a challenge. Their site was so bad, man.
It was atrocious, yeah.
Anyway, without interest from commercial customers, then, board partners are kind of left out in the cold. I mean, man, if you guys have been following along with the screwdriver and the backpack saga, I mean, these are relatively uncomplicated products compared to, well, first you've got this highly complex integrated circuit, right? You've got this ASIC, right? Then you've got the highly complex board designs, the development that goes on around those, the mass production that has to happen in order to reach the kind of scale that it even makes any sense economically to produce these things. Then there's the distribution. You got to kind of bet, move all your pieces into play globally. You got to bet on where people are going to buy these things and which ones they're going to buy and what volumes. Like it's so complicated, and all of this has to take place in the years and then months and then weeks leading up to actually pressing go. This is available, and it's all got to be basically perfect, or you end up looking like an amateur, right? Because you're going up against AMD and NVIDIA, who've been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
So without interest from commercial customers, board partners are left out in the cold, and one has allegedly halted production altogether, and this is due to quality concerns.
Ooh.
Whether these rumors are true or not, they are emblematic of the challenges faced by anyone attempting to enter the GPU market in this day and age. Without a clear value proposition or brand recognition, SIs are going to have a tough time accepting it. Without SIs accepting it, board partners are less likely to hop on board. And without performance leadership or aggressive back-end agreements on pricing, especially price protection, not to mention RMA support, neither situation is likely to change. So the cycle continues until either Intel blinks or the proverbial plug gets pulled. Now, we do have some discussion questions here, and I don't like this first one. Is ARC going to be another Larrabee? I don't think that's a realistic outcome at this point. Like, I do think Intel is a smart enough company to not go completely sunk cost fallacy. Well, we've already put billions in. What's another few billion? But it is very clear from a strategic standpoint that having a GPU play is what the A players do today. You must have, in addition to your x86 compute product, you must have a GPU compute product. And it's also clear from AMD and NVIDIA's strategy that in order to hit the kind of volumes that you need, you want a consumer product. You don't just want it to be a data center compute product, which is ultimately where Larrabee ended up, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
So I don't see it happening. I think Intel has to go down this path, even if it's like beating their heads against a wall in order to get there, even if it takes another 3 years.
I think it sucks. I don't remember the exact problem. There was some type of problem which is causing a lot of these performance issues. We talked about it last week. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think that's like really unfortunate, especially considering that you would kind of hope that with the pedigree that they brought on board that they would have been able to avoid something like that. But it is extremely technical concepts, and it's not like they can exactly just copy paste what these guys have done in the past.
Yeah, I don't think if like Raja Kaduri just recreated.
Yeah, that would be a big problem. So you can't exactly do that. So you're going to run into some issues. It's unfortunate, but I do agree with Linus. I think they're going to try to make it work. I hope they're going to try to make it work.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
There's another discussion question here, courtesy of Anthony. Gamers probably share the concerns around pricing, RMA, and driver support that system integrators do. How will this impact the role of early adopters? I think early adopters are absolutely critical to ARC. And, you know, from talking to Shrout and Tap about it, they seem to understand that they're going to have to be priced very aggressively to drive some of that early adoption. But if they don't have the buy-in from upper management, if they don't have, you know, tens, hundreds of millions, $1 billion to just kind of get some ARC GP freaking U's out there into users' hands.
Do they even really want to if it has a lot of issues with this generation? I think
they produce them, allegedly.
Yeah.
Supposedly, they just have wafers upon wafers upon wafers of ARC GPUs.
Then they're going to have to make them incredibly cheap if there is problems.
Yeah, you don't just grind them up to make new GPUs. Although...
the biggest recycling effort ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't bury it in the desert like the ET video game.
Yeah,
actually
exactly.
Grind them up and make new ones. Yeah, We'll see. There was a comment earlier about like no brand recognition. I don't think that's fair at all.
No.
Because it's going to have Intel on it, and people that are building computers know who Intel is.
And Intel's onboard graphics, to their credit, have gotten a lot better in the last 5 years. I mean, continually, they've gotten continuously better ever since they introduced them back. Well, I shouldn't say introduced them, but
okay, sorry. Jaden just said something in Floatplane chat. If they allow vGPU, they'll move them.
Yep. There's absolutely
100%
strategic levers they can pull. And Epos Vox did a video recently talking about their AV1 encoder. I haven't watched the video yet. I do need to watch it, but I did at least make it to the headline. Apparently, it's outstanding. Like it is a better video encoder. So as long as OBS gets support for Intel's AV1 encoder, I could see a bunch of streamers just throwing it in addition to their NVIDIA GPU just so that they have AV1 encoding.
That would actually be pretty cool because then you can lift a lot of the... It hasn't really been worth it to have like a dedicated NVENC card. But I mean, it could be if it's like actually really killer.
Yeah, if it's legitimately better. I mean, remember too, we're talking about people that will build an entire separate machine so that they can use CPU encoding for the best possible quality. If AV1 meant you just don't have to do that, although there are other reasons to use a separate machine, like if your game crashes, it means your stream doesn't crash, etc., etc.
Stability stuff, yeah.
But if money is no object, or if maybe it's the money is a partial object at that tier, if just adding one of these ARC cards for, you know, 130, 140 bucks, getting that AV1 encoding means that your stream will just immediately look sharper, look better. I could absolutely see people doing that.
Sick. Yeah, if they do, if that's genuinely really good and they have vGPU support, they'll move them. 100% they'll move them. There's a comment from Anthony saying regarding brand recognition, it's more about the Intel HD graphics being poor performers and people generally seeing Intel graphics as low and bare bones. That's fair, but I do also think that Intel is like a household name that people trust. And like maybe if you're very technical and you've like messed around with the Intel HD graphics a bunch and stuff like that, then you have that opinion. But if you're just someone who like you like building your own computers, you build one every like 3-4 years, and you've had Intel chips since you were fairly young, like I think it's gonna hit for those people. And then on the other end, like we've just been saying now, there might be specific scenarios where with the highly technical people, it slays. And like, I don't know, we try to tell them here, and I'm gonna try to tell them again. You'll solve, in my opinion, you'll solve your problems if you enable vGPU. One of the issues with that is it's going to be hard to take it back with Battle Mage or whatever the ones are after that.
Oh, it'd be really hard.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, I think you shouldn't, to be fair. I think you should just send it out there and just leave it out there and just, you know, drop it on the table. Be like, hey, we're actually doing it. We might have cards that have issues, but we have this enabled. People are going to buy it. And if the competition doesn't answer to this, we'll just take our piece of the pie and run with it. But I don't know.